Hey guys, it's Connor aka Con Ogre, and I'm coming at you with a video about something that has been on the minds of other members asking me to do such a video, and myself for some time now, because it's something I am pretty good at, and I think it's quite important for people to understand the dynamics of what I'm about to talk about, and I think it'll really help um, in your miniature making journeys. So, what we're going to talk about is color theory. Um, and color theory in the sense that it's important to understand colors, saturation, lightness, um, matching colors in different ways. For instance, using color harmony to create visually appealing matches of color. Now, I'll get into it later, but you don't have to follow these rules. What this is it's like a one-up. It's a bonus. It's like starting the bobsled race with a +1 second on the timer. Or I guess not -1 second on the timer, however it goes. And it makes your miniatures say something without you having to do much. Um, if you understand what colors do to the eyes, hues do to the eyes, then you can portray a lot of things on your miniature or give a message with your model without actually doing much, like I said. So to start, we'll go over some very basic things without even getting into the painting part. So we have things that are like warm colors. I say warm colors are based on yellows, oranges, browns, yellow greens, orange reds. Warm colors have a tendency to be aggressive and exciting, so it's best to apply them in small doses. And again, that's dependent on the model and what you're looking for. There's intermediary colors. Intermediary colors are like purples and greens. And you'll notice, like when I said warm colors, I said like yellow greens, but it's important that once we get into our tertiary colors and our secondary colors, it's important to know the difference. So purples and greens are intermediary colors. They're warm, they're cool, and it also depends on the amount of like red and yellow that they have. In a ratio of blue, for instance, or if the color contains less blue, then it's leaning towards like a warm hue. And if it has more blue, then it is more towards the cool side. If I explain that, or maybe I just sounded crazy there. We also have cool colors. So cool colors are based on like blues, greens, pinks, purples, blue greens, magentas, blue reds. Cool colors tend to be like very soothing, calming colors and can be used in large amounts. And we have neutral colors, and those tend to be like white, black, gray. Those are kind of like, I call them freebies, because you can insert them into a model and it really doesn't mess up the play on the other colors. And it can go on and on and on. We'll talk about color harmony, and all the different types of tertiaries and secondary colors and the primary colors and why the color wheel is so important. But those are just basic things. And like I said, I repeated myself. We heard greens like 3 different times there in the intermediary and the warm colors, cool colors, but it depends on how you use them. And it's so important to understand that when I say green, there's so many different types of green. Like just within arm's reach here, I see 4. And I know I have more like 8. I got about 8 different types of greens. These are 4. Those are very different. Saturation is different, brightness is different, their effect on a model, very different. The effect that you would see if I did a bag in, let's say, a Dark Angels green, or let's see this, Wall Flesh, as opposed to doing a bag in a moot green, is going to have a drastic difference on the way a model looks. Would you want a lime green bag hanging off an ogre? I wouldn't. Maybe you would. And maybe that's going to go with your theme, because you're going to have colors that are going to match that theme. It's up to you. So, without further ado, let's get into some of the basic, like, less basic, than, a little more advanced than what we were talking about before. But, so to start, it's important to know that we start with 3 primary colors. And to do this, I went out and I got the 3 primary colors. And I did a little research to find out what 3 very good primary colors would be, what company makes very true primary colors, and I found Privateer Press is quite good for primary colors, with yellow, blue, and red, very pure, basic colors. Those are our primary colors. Done. That's them. Now, we're going to take a little bit of this red. Oh, they're a little hard to open. I'll give them that. I'll give them that. Also picked up a yellow ink while I was at it. I do not have a yellow ink. And I'm still really upset about me spilling all of my Fugan Orange. Sorry. Yeah, Fugan Orange. Look at that. That was full. Got that, spilt the whole thing. And that's, of course, very shortly after I spilt pretty much all of my Nihilic oxide. But that is life. So, let's take a little bit of this red. I'm going to put that here. In fact, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to put a good chunk. Okay. Get some red. I must say, I'm actually quite impressed with this Privateer Press stuff. It's very smooth paint. Not chunky at all. It's got a nice flow. Take some yellow. Yellow is a paint that you need to be careful with. As many of you know, probably all of you, yellow paint has very low pigment count. It does not go well over black for sure, and it's important to layer adequately and use very thin layers. One thing I'm noticing right off the bat with these Privateer Press paints is that they really have a tendency to stick to your brush, but that's okay. Is that already drying? Wow, they dry. That thing about acrylics, eh, man, they dry quick on you. I'm going to take some of this blue now. This is a beautiful, rich blue. Like I said before, this would be quite close to what GW's Enchanted Blue looks like. Not quite, but very close. Very close. So, here we have our 3 primary colors. So, with these colors, you can make pretty much anything. You can make your secondary colors, and with secondary colors and mixes of primary colors, you can make tertiary colors. Now, your secondary colors are purple, orange, and green. So, it's hard to get ratios right because of pigment. But if we just took yellow, took some red, see, it's going to take much more yellow than it does red, because that's the way it is. Just take a little more yellow. That's why it's important not to get confused with paints to say, oh, well, it's 50-50 mix of yellow and red to make orange. It's not, actually. It's definitely not, because of how much pigment red has. So there we go. Look at that. Using nothing but red and yellow, we've made orange. A beautiful burnt orange color. And we could make that more of a fiery orange, getting to something like this, by adding more yellow. I'm sure you guys know what's going to happen when I mix the red and the blue. So right there, we're getting like a very deep deep lavender color because I don't have enough red. I didn't actually put that much on the paper, but that's okay. Okay, more red going in. And a little more blue. Okay, and it's a very deep, rich purple, so it's probably going to be hard to pick out on that camera. I'm looking through it right now, and it's probably looking like it's a little more brown, but I assure you that is purple. It is purple. Now, is it like a lich purple? No. I'll take some of that just to show you what like a lich purple would look like. But it's important to note that we could make that lich purple if we wanted to. All we gotta do is mix. Okay. Take a little yellow. Take a little blue. Green. And in between these colors, we're going to have things like tertiary colors. So we're talking about right here, 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 here. And you can even get 2 degrees here. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It goes on and on and on through the shades. But for tertiary colors, we're looking at like yellow, orange, red purple, blue green, yellow green, essentially. And different variations of those colors. Okay, so, and that's all well and fine. Great. I learned this in 4th grade. It's a color wheel. I can mix colors. Hoorah. How do I apply this to a miniature? Well, let me grab my stone horn, which I've found has been a good example. Now, I'm not going to put him right in the picture yet. But if you guys can recall what my stone horn looked like, I'm sure you know that he has very gingery fur. Red, burnt orange color. And, if you recall, what are the key elements? The complementary color I used to this orange was blue. I used a dark blue for the eyes, and I painted all the gems. I painted the pants on the ogre. I painted a large portion of the shield that was made out of lizard skin hide. In a rich orange, and then I highlighted it up a little bit with like a an ice blue. So why did that work? Well, it worked because of color harmony. And if you don't know what color harmony is, essentially harmony can be defined as like a pleasing arrangement of parts, and that could be music, that could be poetry, that could be color, could be an ice cream sundae. I don't care, anything. That's harmony. That's what it is. E-harmony. In visual experiences, harmony is something that is pleasing to the eye. It engages the viewer and it creates like an inner sense of order, a balance in the visual experience. You know, when something is not harmonious, it's either boring, it can be chaotic. At one extreme is like how do I say it? One extreme is like a visual experience that it's so bland that the viewer is not engaged, and then the human being will like your eyes will reject the under stimulation information. Oh, this is a huge crash downstairs. Sorry, I spaced out there. And then on the other extreme is like a visual experience that's so overwhelming that you don't really soak it in, if that makes any sense. So, in that sense, we can say like the brain and your eyes reject what it can't recognize. And when it sees things that overload itself, you don't get to appreciate it perhaps for what it is. And there's some studies going into the fact that that may be why there's so many people with like a clown phobia. It may have to do with a lot of the colors. But that's another topic altogether. So, in summary, extreme unity leads to understimulation, extreme complexity leads to overstimulation, and then harmony is kind of like an equilibrium between the two. Okay? So, it's all well and fine. Connor, how do I achieve color harmony? Easy. You can do it in 2 ways that I know of, and I'm going to explain those to you. The way that many studios use. That seems to work absolutely fantastic. But it is a little bit more challenging. Is a color scheme based on I never know how to say this. Analogous colors. Analogous colors. Yeah, that's it. Analogous colors. So essentially, we're looking at 3 colors on the wheel that are beside each other. So in that color wheel for what we'd be doing analogous colors, that would be 3 colors identical to each other in the tertiary chart. Okay, do not confuse that with using 3 primary colors. Like, okay, I'll use red, I'll use yellow, and I'll use blue. No. And it's not like I'll use purple, I'll use red, and I'll use orange. That's closer to what we're looking for. But really what we'd like to be doing is doing something like, you need to be using the 12-part color wheel, essentially. So look up a 12-part color wheel, and you can pick your colors off there. And from there, we're going to be using things like here's a, and that's what they say when they need triads. People use a triad for painting. Go, you know, some of the videos, Mr. Paint Dry, Mr. Watching Paint Dry, or some of these very, very prestigious painters will go, okay, I'm using this triad for this model. That's what they're referring to. So they're highlighting up with these colors, and they're all complementing each other. So, in essence, we could use like a yellow-green, a yellow, and then a yellow-orange. And those would be ding, 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 right beside each other. Okay? That can make very, very, very appealing-looking models. It really can. And I've done it before. It takes a little longer, but in my opinion, it doesn't achieve any greater result than step number 2 to creating color harmony. And that is using complementary colors. And that is my absolute favorite way to create a beautiful looking model using wonderful colors. Now, it's so easy. What's a complementary color? Take a color on your color wheel, go across from it. That's its complementary color. Blue, orange, hence why I did the stone horn. Yellow goes to purple-ish. Not really totally, but close on the color wheel. But in essence, yes, yellow, purple, orange, blue, red, green. Okay, so what I did there on my stone horn was I went from orange to blue. And in that pairing, you're letting the eyes just, I look at it like you're giving your eyes a rest, and it just, the colors, you don't have to work. It does all the job for you, because the colors it flows. That's what it's all about. Okay, sorry about that, guys. It fell off the table there, so I had to do a little bit of adjusting before getting back to the video. So I'm going to put that color wheel away, and we're looking at the stone horn and the colors I used to make this match. Get off its tail there, you bugger. So we have a burnt orange, and then we have blues. And you can see the blues all over the model that are shining in with this orange. And it works, doesn't it? It feels like it mixes. It just does its job. And that's what we're looking for. Now let me grab another model. And I'll see if perhaps anywhere on the model I've used complementary colors. In some way, we could say that the Pirate Maneater did this, where I used a green top, a vibrant green over a lot of red accents. But you could easily go back and say, well, okay, that's all well and fine, but what about the blue and what about the yellow? And that's true. That is true. And in some ways, this could be considered crowding. Because I have yellow, I have red, I got blue, I have blacks, I have silvers, I got beiges in here. It could get busy very, very quickly. But in this way, I think he works out well with the what I call the rule of thirds in photography, where you kind of have, like, if you pictured a square around this guy, where does your eye immediately go when you look at this guy? So let me get him in focus here. As soon as you look at the model with rule of thirds, you should technically have a focal point that's on a graph. So if I was to draw a graph really quickly, I'm going to use some of the paint I already have here. So this is going to look absolutely terrible, by the way, guys, so please excuse me. Okay, so here it is. Here's our graph. So if our man-eater is, say, here, here's his hat, here's his feather, here's his parrot, here's the sword going up. Okay? As you can see, my freehand is just as good as my regular painting. What we'd want to do is bring a focal point that's in this area. And I know I'm relating photography right now to miniature painting, but in my opinion, it all works out together. I want the eye to be drawn to the corner of one of these edges. So, I mean, I didn't position the ogre right there, but, you know, you want the eye to be drawn to a place in the miniature where it's, you know, I don't want the focal point to be here. I don't want the focal point to be here. I don't want the focal point to be here either, even though this is bright. Why is that not? Because if I didn't have this bird, when you look at this model, you'll find your eyes straying down to that area. Now the face is very bright, and it works as a focal point, but when that knoblaugh's there, it draws your eye right to here, like a harmony balance, and it really works. Okay? So I hope that makes some sense, guys. And you can go back and you can look at that color wheel, and the easiest thing to do is just to bring up that color wheel, print it off, laminate it, stick it above your desk, and then have the color wheel above you when you're doing your painting. Because it can really, really, really help. You're looking at something, you're going, oh, well, I'd really like to add some pizzazz to this miniature. Well, go ahead, do it. You can. What could I do here on this miniature? What could I add more? Like I could take this bag, for instance. I could probably take a bag. I could paint this like a dark blue and maybe stick this like satchel hanging off somewhere here, and it would look very good. What's another great thing I could do right here to add some life? Not that I don't think it's not very lively already. I could take some blue wash and I could wash the bone, well, it is his bone, the stone on the miniature. That would help greatly. And I've seen it done many times on stone horns, but I think I wanted to go with more of the mute stone. Okay, so I hope that brings some help to you guys. And, you know, this isn't one of my typical ranting videos where I go on and on about random junk. Not that it's junk, I hope you guys enjoy it. But there's things you can do that just make your life exponentially easier when it comes to painting, and that's one of them. And that we haven't even gone into blacks, grays, and whites, and how they can affect a miniature, and how using a gray, and that is brightness, by the way, or lightness, is you know, or sorry, not that, it's saturation. Saturation is looking at a scale from gray to the utterly saturated color. So that would be looking at, oh, this is actually a perfect example. Which one of these do you think is more saturated? If you said this one, well, get off my blog. I'm just kidding. This is the more saturated green. Whereas this, you could see, if you wanted to, instance, make this, how would you do it with this color? If you're saying I would add gray, maybe some bleached bone, you're correct. And in essence, that's what you do. You add gray. And the more gray, the less saturated a color becomes. The more hue you add of that color, green, the more saturated it becomes. And that's, like I said, without even getting into the lightness and darkness of a miniature, using white and black. And all those things come into account. And I could talk about color theory for ever and ever, and I still probably wouldn't get to the end of what I'm saying. P.S. I'm going to do that in Rust, probably. I'm looking at that now, and I think it's a little bit too shiny for its own good. Yeah, I'm totally going to do that. In fact, I'll do that now. So I hope this helped, guys. I really hope it does. And if it doesn't, well, it gives you something to do for 25 minutes. Or perhaps you're one of those people that skips to the last minute of a video and then says that you watched it. Not that I'm blaming any of you of that, I'm just saying there are people out there who do that with YouTube videos. You know what I mean? It's kind of frustrating. It may not seem like these videos are that hard to do, but you'd actually be surprised if you took a stab at it yourself. It takes a little bit of planning to not totally fall short on what you're talking about. So today is March 1st. I have just done a color theory video, and I hope to probably finish up this ogre tonight if I have time. That is my last ogre. And after that, it's on to specialty miniatures. And once that ogre is done and these two guys are painted, I'm completely done. I have nothing left to paint. This is my battle standard bearer for my man-eaters, and my all-loving Skaven man-eater from Nobbler Herder, as you guys have seen many times and how I've talked about it many times. As you may know, his little Nobbler buddy fell off, but I have him on standby. He's right here. I'm going to paint him separately. My Skaven Nobbler. So, they'll be done up in due time. This is actually a good time for me to note a big pet peeve of mine. And the pet peeve is, sorry, not Scrag the Slaughter. His name is escaping me right now. Oh my gosh, that's gonna kill me. It's not Scrag the Slaughter. What is it? I'll remember it as soon as the video is done. And I can't believe I'm forgetting him, but you know who he is. I cannot believe I'm forgetting his name. Okay, regardless, I'd like to note how small he is. We're just gonna take a normal ogre and put it beside him. Anything look wrong to you? Yeah, it's because he's like a baby. Now sure, he's just as tall as the ogre right now, but flip him around and look at the arms. Look at how much skimpy his arm is in compared to this, guys. It's much smaller. Okay? Bragg, that's his name, Bragg the Gutsman. Okay, it's much smaller, and then when you get into something else, look at him beside a man-eater, for Christ's sake. He gets dwarfed. He's like a little shrimp. Little baby. He's tiny. And it stands out, I'm telling you, when you get these guys all together, it's going to be notable. I'm looking at these guys, how they're going to be lined up in a line, and that's going to be noticeable. It's too bad. They could have done a much, much, much better job on that model. And, you know, I'm sure it'll look great when it's done, but there's just certain things, I think, you know, did you not look at the size of the model when you were doing it? Jeez. Anyways. That's all for me now, guys. I hope this gave you some drive to learn the color wheel. Perhaps do a little learning of your own, and please feel free to note if I said anything wrong. As always, guys, if you like the video, please subscribe, like the video, go check out my Noblog and get involved with the awesome people that are on there if you're not coming from there already. Take care, guys. Bye.